Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Van Cuyk is an expert on hiring and managing teams that get results. Stop trying to do all the things and hire the help you need. Find the right people for the openings instead of just resource draining bodies. Leverage employees so they can achieve their dreams. Jamie has over 10 years of leadership experience. Through this experience, Jamie has learned how each management relationship is unique because people are individuals. Due to this, Jamie does not apply a cookie-cutter approach to her clients. Instead, she learns the dynamics within each business and helps to create and implement customized solutions based on individual employer-employee needs. Stay tuned for Jamie Van Cuyk.
Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Welcome, everybody, to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. This is your host, Emmett Muckles. I don't care how hard your day is. You still got to be glad because you woke up. You're able to actually go through it. Listen to that. Some people don't even get the chance to go through the drama you went through today because they are not here. So you have to give blessings and you have to be happy with where you are and knowing that it can only get better. Today, my guest is Jamie Van Cuyk. She is an expert on hiring and managing teams that get results. What up, girlfriend?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today.
Hey, I want to thank you because of some extenuating circumstances and you're so patient. So, let's get right into it.
Sounds good.
How did you get to be an expert in hiring? Because I know this, hiring is not an easy job.
Oh, no, it's not.
And I always say they should give a psychological test to every job that is posted that you may get hired. You're like, are you a psychopath? Did you have daddy issues? Did you have mommy issues? Are you going through a change of life? Because paper is one thing, actions are another, mentality is a totally different thing. Mm-hmm. But I got loaded. How did you get in it?
Yeah, so I was in corporate leadership for years. And when I was in corporate leadership and in the corporate world, my number one goal was I knew I wanted to start my own business. So I was like, I'm going to go and learn everything I can to make it so when I do take the leap into being an entrepreneur, I have learned as much as I can from working for others. So I got on the leadership track and wanted to learn as much as possible. And I managed some really great teams, which meant that I didn't have to do a lot of hiring personally for my teams, but because my team was so well ran and I wasn't experiencing a lot of the problems that other teams were having in the larger department, I got tasks with reviewing resumes and sending them to the managers to interview, or I was doing first round interviews to say, hey, these are the people that you need to interview for your position. And there was even one time where in our department, we decided that we were adding 18 positions and we wanted them all to start at the same time so everyone can go through the training at the same time. And I was tasked with reviewing every resume, working with the HR department to figure out what we were going to ask during these interviews because we needed to put a team together that was going to conduct the interviews, and we wanted to make sure that every person was asked the same question. So if you might have been getting something on your team that you actually never interviewed, but you wanted to make sure you had the right feedback. And so it was like we had to create this whole big hiring process, this hiring event to bring on 18 people and not waste all our time because that's a lot of interviews you have to do to fill 18 positions.
Let's get to what this generation is experiencing. You're experiencing an explosion in entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, and sometimes they need help, but they're so used to being a solopreneur, entrepreneur. Yeah. And those are interchangeable to me because, a lot of the delegation they do to themselves.
Yep.
How do they know when it's time to, bring on some help or make a team suddenly?
Yeah, that is definitely a very hard place for a lot of solopreneurs and entrepreneurs to figure that out because they're used to doing everything on their own. And especially those that consider themselves and brand themselves as a solopreneur, they all of a sudden start to think of like, wait, am I doing something wrong that I need help as a solopreneur because I should be able to do everything on my own?
Right.
And no one needs to be able to do everything on their own. And and also it's like you look at it and it's like people say the word employees or hire, even if it's a contractor that you're hiring, and the first thing that goes to your mind is money, money, money. I'm paying someone else to do something. Like
that was it.
Yep. So it's like it's a very big step people have to make, no matter whether they're hiring a contractor, a full-time employee, a part-time employee. So I always say you have to look at it and you have to have a need to hire. And there's 4 basic needs that signify that it's time to hire, and 3 of them have to do around time. So it's 1, you're having to say no to current clients. Like you have clients that you love and you want to do this work, and maybe it's even new clients, but people are coming your way and they're trying to give you their money in ways that you want to take their money, but you can't. You're overbooked. Or if you're saying, well, I can take your money, I can do that work for you, but it's a month out, it's 2 months out. So it's like you're constantly creating this backlog of work. So that's one thing, if you brought on help, you would be able to service your clients faster. The other thing is you're losing customers, whether that's current customers or potential customers, because of poor customer service. We're in a day and age where people want responses quickly, especially when they're going out to find someone new to do work for them. They don't want to wait a week for you to get back to them with a proposal. Or a current client, they expect certain levels of customer service. They expect you to get back to them in a timely manner, and they expect the work to be done in a timely manner. And if you can't do that, they're going to take their business elsewhere in the future. The other thing with time is you can't expand. So maybe you're doing great with all your current business, but you have these ideas, you have these things that you want to do, but you can't do them because you don't have the time to shift and focus on that without suffering what you're currently doing. So those are the 3 time. And then the other one is like you're just identifying that you're lacking a skill set. So there's knowledge that you need, there's a skill that you need, and you don't have it. So you're spending all your time learning versus doing. Or you're like, okay, I can learn this myself, but it's going to take me so long to perfect this to be the expert that I need to be in order for it to be done well for my business. So those are some signs that it's time to start exploring getting help versus you doing everything yourself.
So with this as well, many solopreneurs and entrepreneurs actually have jobs. Mm-hmm. So they will, or it'll be their main side hustle.
Right.
Do you think hiring someone to take on some of those tasks so that they can focus in on generating their basic income is advantageous to them, or would that help?
I think it definitely helps. There's a lot of cases where it does, especially if you only have so many hours. Do you want to be spending those hours doing like the admin backend work, or do you want to be spending those hours actually bringing in revenue for your business? There's so much that needs to get done for a business that doesn't necessarily need to be done by the business owner, that they could easily hand off. And yeah, if you only have 10 hours a week, shouldn't those be the best 10 hours a week you're spending on your business, the client-facing hours, versus spending 5 of those hours doing back-end stuff that nobody cares if you do it or if you have an admin do it or you hire a specialist to do it?
Yeah. So what are most of the mistakes that people make when hiring, whether it be a hiring manager or a solopreneur who's trying to bring someone or whoever it is? What are those mistakes? Because I've seen some dire ones, but I want to get the professionals' take on it.
So to start with, especially when people are making some of their first hiring decisions, they really don't know exactly what their company needs. So they go out and like do research, like what are the top positions, the first positions you should bring in? And then they're like, oh, that sounds great. Let me do that. And they don't really figure out what does this position mean for their company? How is this position going to move their company forward? So they start filling the wrong positions. And then they don't actually know how to interview and hire people to identify if they're right for that position. So they get the wrong people in it. So it's either they're filling the wrong positions, they're getting the wrong people into those positions, or both.
Wow. So why are many positions, and I've seen this, and I've heard it in the news, I've seen it in personally, where people say they're having a really hard time, extremely hard time finding qualified talent because the unemployment rate is low.
Yes. I battle this all the time when I'm working with people because that's what they want to say. They just want to blame it on unemployment because they're like, it's out of my control. There's nothing I can do. And I always say, of the resumes you review and the people you've hired in the past, how many of them were unemployed during that time? And they'll be like, well, nobody. Everyone had a job. They had to give in their notice. And I was like, exactly. I was like, most of the people that are looking for work aren't unemployed. Most of the people looking for work have jobs today.
That they're sick
So
of.
yeah, so it's like, yes, it sometimes makes it a little bit tougher because of the fact that you have multiple companies competing for the same talent, but that talent is still there. So you need to make sure you're doing the right things to attract that talent, for that talent to want to apply to your position. But that talent is still out there looking for jobs. You just need to make sure you're actually speaking to the right talent.
Yeah. So let's go back a ways. And if you were interviewing you 5 years ago, what would that be like? I know I threw a curveball at you and it's like, whoo, boom. And the reason I say this is because you've learned some things now. What would you tell your, like if you sat down and you interviewed yourself 5 or 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, goodness.
See, you didn't know it was going to be this
So,
fun, did you?
yeah, no, I would say some of the things I would tell myself is we as humans, we're very emotional about things, especially when it comes to hiring. And sometimes you know that there's some people that are out there and they need a job. They're really looking for something new. They're trying to break into the field. And just reminding myself that it's as someone who is hiring, it was my responsibility to find the right person for the role.
Yeah.
It wasn't my responsibility to give everybody a job or to give a person a job that I felt that emotional connection to. And I would say when I was brand new to interviewing people, I almost made a huge hiring mistake where I almost hired someone that wasn't qualified for the role only because I felt really touched by his story and his background and all this other stuff that he brought up. And he was really excited and really anxious to go out and find his first real full-time job after graduating college. And he had worked his butt off to get himself through college, to pay all his enrollment fees and everything. And now he was so ready to put that education to use. And I was just so attached to the story. And then I was so lucky I was talking to another manager and they're like, but is he qualified for this role? Like, tell us what makes him qualified for this role. And I was just like, I don't actually think he is. And it was like that eye-opening thing of like, yeah, not everyone's right for the role. And it's not my responsibility to give someone a role. It's to give the right person the role.
Let me stop you there because I'm going to throw two things at you and then we'll dialogue after this.
Sounds good.
Which is more important, skill or passion and drive?
So I think you need a proper combination of both. Because if we go back and you're talking about small businesses, solopreneurs who don't have large staffs to help with training, the three of the reasons why you're hiring someone is because you don't have time, which means you can't train them on everything. You can't be by their side every moment of the day to get them from A to Z. They need to be close to where you need them to be. They need to meet those minimum expectations. Otherwise, all that time you thought you were going to save by hiring, you're given to training and getting them to the next level. So they need to have some level of skill, but also they need to have some level of passion because once again, if you're a small business, you're small. That person you bring in, if it's only you and them, they're 50% of your company. So
Yeah.
you need passion, you need everything, the excitement. They're going to get behind you and they're going to help lift you up. So it needs to be a combination of both.
So they have to have at least the minimum requirements, but that passion and that drive can kick it over to the next level.
Yeah.
Gotcha. How do you encourage your clients, to use these personality tests during the hiring process? Because once again, it is not just, okay, got a PhD or a BA from Harvard and they did some volunteer work and they were a choir person. See how I said that? Choir person in their previous life. Good to go. and then they're horrible.
Yes.
I mean, so what's with that, or how should people administrate, or I don't even know how I'm saying this, personality test? How does that come in the fold?
So my best advice is don't use them during the interview process.
Really?
Here's why. And here's why. I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people, they want to use them as that initial screening tool. So I'll see it out there, and I'll have to stop clients from doing it. Is part of the application process. They'll say, go to this link, take this personality test, send me your results, or depending on which one they'll get notified of the results. And they want to use that before they ever review a resume. They're like, I'm going to look at these personality results. But what they're saying there is saying that only people of a certain personality can do this role.
Yeah.
And that brings out so many biases, and you're going to knock so many great candidates out of the running. When I was in corporate, we did personality tests with our team to learn how to manage our team better. And I will tell you, all my top performers on that team were all different in their personality types. We had ones in like every like main category of the personalities. So it goes to show that anybody can do well at a job. It's all a matter of how they use that personality in their day-to-day work, really how they bring it out. And most of that stuff, you can, if you have asked the right questions and format your interview properly, you can find out a lot of that stuff during the interview itself. Now, when I do encourage personality tests is two different times. So the first one is if you've already decided that you have 2-3 candidates that are highly qualified, you're trying to figure out which one you should hire because you're having a really hard time distinguishing between which one would be a better fit. Then I'll say do some personality tests, because if you know what your personality is, you can look at them to say which one would I have an easier time managing. Because some personalities, if you do the right ones on your side, like it will sometimes tell you how you interact with people of other personality types. Then you can say, these 3 candidates, they're all equal in everything else, but this one I'm going to have an easier time managing and building that relationship, so let me hire that one. The other time is once you've hired someone and you have a team of employees, whether it's one employee or more, sometimes I encourage it because it does let you know how to manage that person. Personality tests are a great thing to tell you, is someone very detailed oriented, and when you go to communicate with them, they want all the details. They want you to give as much information as possible. Some other people, they're more high level. You need to paint the big picture, the big outline before you get into the to-dos. Sometimes you find out that people are, like I had some employees, to them, family was their big driver behind everything. So I knew when I was starting a conversation with them, if we were having a one-on-one conversation, if I wanted them to be engaged in the conversation, I needed to take 2 minutes to be like, how's the family today? What did you guys do over the weekend? And then they were engaged in the conversation because I connected with them on a way that really mattered. Which then other employees, if I started asking about their family, they'd probably totally tune out and be like, this meeting's a waste of my time. With them, I knew I needed to get right into the details, and that was the best way to grow that relationship.
All right, what about looking into someone's social networking background? Is that a go, no go, or what are your thoughts on that?
So technically, there's no laws against looking at social media. However, the discrimination laws say it's discrimination no matter how you find out about the information. So you put yourself at risk if you look at people's social media profiles. They know you looked at their social media profiles, or they assume that you did. You don't hire them, and then they say, well, they didn't hire me because I am whatever, and that's goes against discrimination laws, so now I'm going to bring a lawsuit against them.
Ooh, I don't think many people know that.
Yeah.
That's a hot mess waiting to happen.
Yeah. So it's always one of those things. Like I said, there's no law against it, but I always tell my clients over and over again, is just because someone can't win a lawsuit doesn't mean they won't try. So you need to stay far away from the lines as possible.
I want to ask you, who's your perfect client?
Ooh, my perfect client is someone who's really eager to learn, wants to do things right. They like getting strategies and following those strategies, or at least being guided through those strategies. So they're all about, let's plan and then get through that plan. So someone who's going to hire, I like working with people that are either brand new to the hiring process, so they haven't hired employees before, they haven't hired team members before, or they're within their first probably 2 to 3 years of hiring and managing team members, and they're realizing that they don't know everything. There's a lot of gaps in their knowledge that they didn't know until they were into hiring and managing employees.
Is your main focus just hiring, or is it managing new employees as well?
So I help with the management as well. With most of my clients, the focus is hiring and getting those new employees into the door. But then we do focus on, with some clients, the longer term management. So everything from, okay, we don't stop it, we just hire. You have to onboard and train that employee. And then how do you keep those relationships going and going strong? Because most of the clients I work with are brand new to that space, they have problems delegating. They want to get this stuff off their plate, but they don't know how. They resist doing it. So there was one client I was working with once where she's like, I am so overwhelmed. My employees don't have enough to do, but I just don't know how to start transitioning stuff to them. And she goes, and I don't want to overload them to be like, oh, tomorrow you're doing all this stuff. So we created this whole delegation roadmap of, here's what you delegate this week. Here's how you follow up to make sure that they actually understand what they're doing, and so forth, until we got all the tasks off of her that she wanted to and onto her team members. And then it's some of the things like, how do you keep your employees motivated? So retention is important, because with good employees, it all starts with hiring the right person. But if you don't do the work to keep them, then they're going to go elsewhere. So you can have the best employee, and you need to keep maintaining that relationship and making it so they want to stay part of the team.
So how can people find you other than this wonderful Facebook group that you have?
Yes. So my website is jamievc.com. So that's Jamie, then VC, so short for my last name, Van Cuyk, because I knew that would be very difficult for people to always go out and and try to spell. So jamievc.com is my website, and you can connect with me through the website, and I have links to all my social media profiles and everything there.
Now, your solopreneur, the solopreneur to employer journey with Jamie Van Cuyk.
Yes.
On Facebook.
Yep.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's a free Facebook community that I have, where I really focus on giving out information that's going to help people understand more about managing teams, helping people identify if it's the right time to hire, and just giving little tidbits about what it's like to have employees and hire employees, and a bunch of information.
And do you have a YouTube page giving out tips and tricks and stuff like that?
I do. I do have a YouTube channel where I do my best to post a new video every week. Normally every Thursday I have a new video going out where it's a lot of the same information. So I'm giving you tips on hiring and managing employees.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is how we roll out. Remember, we are a fractal being, and we are a special being, because the deeper you look, the more we are the same. And we are all billionaires. Remember, it is not always about money. It is just a measure of the system that money is. So let's think of it this way. If you don't think you're a billionaire, which people say to me all the time, and I have to tell them, you're a bold-faced lie. And I say, look at your hand. That's made up of cells. And those cells, just in your hand alone, constitute at least 1 billion cells. But I'm not going to even go there. I'll take it to the simplest point. When your mom and dad conceived you and the cosmic dance began, 2 cells met, they began to replicate. 30 days later, they were 1 billion cells, and you grew from there. So you're already an infinite being. You're a spiritual being having a physical experience. And this is part of the learning. And sometimes you have to hire people. So when you go into the bathroom and you look in the mirror, you might be brushing your teeth or something, or getting out the shower, get close to the mirror and look in your eye, because your eye is like a nebula in the sky. Remember I said we're fractal. And I want you to, when you recognize another being with a nebulae in their eye, like the one in the sky, treat them with love, honor, respect, and you might just hire them. Till next time, love you all. Peace.